All right. Welcome to the March 3rd school committee meeting. We'll start with a Pledge of Allegiance. If Jen, you could lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We have consent agenda from February 10th, 2022 and oath to bills and payroll.
Make a motion to accept the minutes from February 10th, as well as an oath to bills and payroll. Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. This brings us to our first opportunity for interested citizens. Anyone who would like to speak right now? Come on.
We do have a raised hand as well.
Okay, we'll go out the.
Good evening, members of the school committee, Dr. Kunchi, and fellow parents. I'm standing here before you tonight to express my extreme frustration and disappointment in the actions of this school committee, Dr. Kunchi, and what you have taken in allowing our children whether or not to choose to be mask-free in schools. We want to reiterate the fact that requiring children to participate in school testing in order to be mask-free is outside the authority of this school committee and the superintendent. Per state law and DESE, the school committee establishes educational goals and policies. The superintendent serves as the school committee's educational advisor. The superintendent is the educational leader of the school. This is from the Mass Government website and DESE. Therefore, the school committee and the school superintendent do not have the authority to make a decision regarding the medical device used for children, especially a non-FDA approved medical device. Per the FDA, a face mask is considered a medical device when it's used for a medical purpose, such as slowing the spread of COVID-19. Additionally, there are only certain FDA approved masks for children, and CDC officials have declared that cloth and surgical masks basically ineffective. The old COVID saying, if my mask protects you and your mask protects me, it's obsolete. Science has repeatedly shown that if one wants to wear a mask for the protection, KN95 or N95 is required, and that is sufficient for the individual wear. And there is no need for others to wear one around. Data shows that masking in schools has not impacted the COVID-19 transmission and hospitalization rates. Therefore, one child sitting next to another in the classroom or on a bus while wearing a cloth face mask has done little to nothing to affect the transmission of COVID-19. Again, a mask is considered a medical device according to school committee policy, state law, and federal law. There is nothing that states any of you have any authority to mandate the use of a non-FDA approved medical device.
I'm sorry, you have to identify your name and where you live.
Brian McCarthy, 23 Spartan Arrow Road.
Thank you.
This is especially true now that there is no state of emergency in the state of Massachusetts. DESE, Governor Riley, Commissioner Riley, Governor Baker, and even the town of Littleton Board of Health has ended all statewide and citywide mask mandates. Nor can you continue or incentivize and encourage the emergency use authorization COVID-19 test for children, especially since it's being tied to a mask policy. The tests that the district is using are approved under only emergency use authorization. Emergency use authorization does not mean FDA approved. The emergency use authorization process is much different, and it only allows it to be used. It is not and cannot be required. We were told that the reason for pool testing here is to stay in place because we want to gather more data. It's been 2 years. The data has been collected. The research has shown that the virus itself has little impact on our children by now. Most children have been vaccinated, contracted COVID, or likely both. The research has shown that the long-term harm to kids from masking is potentially enormous, especially our youngest children. Masking is a psychological stressor for children. It disrupts learning. Covering the lower half of the face for both the pupil and the teacher reduces the ability to communicate. In particular, children use that experience of mimicking expressions, the essential tool of nonverbal communication. Positive emotions such as laughter and smiling become less recognizable. The negative emotions get amplified. Bonding between teachers and students takes a huge hit. I would know I am a local high school history teacher, and it was very difficult interacting with students over the last 2 years. Overall, masking exacerbates the chances that a child will experience anxiety and depression. In summary, as a school committee member and the superintendent, your role is to make educational decisions for the school system, not health ones. Not only do you lack the authority to implement a mandate that require children to wear a non-FDA approved medical device and participate in non-FDA medical testing, there is also no data supporting that a mask mandate, even a partial one, is necessary at this point. Given the illusion of choice, whether or not children can wear a mask based on their participation in pool testing is not a choice at all. It's simple manipulation of your students and our children. Given this, it seems that the only reason right now to continue a mask mandate to any extent would be either for political reasons or due to your own fear and anxiety regarding this virus. And as we know, neither of those can be used to justify a continued mask mandate for Littleton Public Schools. You should adopt the optional masking policy effective immediately and without restrictions. I thank you for your time and consideration on this matter, and please do what is right for our children and the parents of this community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We have a raised hand.
Scott Thaxton, please state your name, your street, and your question, please.
Hi, actually, it's not. Sorry, this isn't Scott Thaxton. My name is Greg Panini. I live at 23 Cricket Lane. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, great. I just want to thank Brian for coming in there and saying everything that he just said. I couldn't agree more with everything he said. I would just like to add that not only is pool testing flawed, it's always been flawed. People can test negative for several days while they're visibly sick and contagious. And I also want to add that the swabs that they use are actually soaked in a carcinogen that's a known carcinogen. So to jam a chemical soaked Q-tip up our kids' nose to see if they have the same cold that they had 2 months ago makes no sense at all. And as we know, reaching that 4% positivity threshold is going to be meaningless because putting masks back on isn't going to slow the spread, which we know now. So I just want to, I can't really say it any better than Brian just said. I agree with everything he said. And I just want to let everyone know that my kids will be coming to school tomorrow without masks on. They'll be getting on the bus without masks on. They're not going to be participating in pool testing, and I'm throwing all my masks away. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this brings us to recognitions. Stella, if you want to start us off there.
Yeah, so my name is Stella Austin, and I am the representative, along with Madison Shuffrin, who cannot be here tonight. I'm the representative from the Littleton School Systems, and we've had a pretty good return since break. At Shaker Lane, yesterday they had their Superhero Spirit Day, where students and staff dressed up as their favorite superhero, and they had a lot of help in the building, should anyone have needed it. And Shaker Lane would also like to thank the PTA and Littleton Education Fund for grant approval and funds for the X Game medalist BMX biker, Matt Wilheim, who's an anti-bully virtual assembly speaker. The students viewed his presentation and found it very exciting and fun to watch, so the Shaker Lane would like to thank the PTA. Russell Street also had a great return after break. The students are excited and participating in the PTA-sponsored coin challenge this week, and the PTA will be extending the coin challenge for one more week after this one. Russell Street has had several additional LHS student interns who come into the building each week, and it has been wonderful to have them engaging with the younger students. And on the high school side of things, the high schoolers are very excited to be there as well. Russell Street is also preparing for the spring conferences that are in a couple of weeks. Littleton Middle School was selected by the National Assessment of Education Progress to complete a series of assessments as part of the National Program to Chart Performance. 58th graders took the test, and LMS is very excited and anxious, not anxious, but like anticipating to see the results. Not anxious, wrong word. My bad. They're excited to see the results. And Friday, March 11th will be Littleton Middle School's first 6th grade kids night out in 2 years. And this event runs from 5 to 7, and they will have food and fun and more. The Littleton High School has had a very great return to break as well. The boys track team won states, and so they are having a parade at 9 a.m. this Saturday from Russell Street to King Street to Goldsmith to Shaker Lane. Congratulations to them. The band, the Littleton High School band, returned from their band trip to Disney, where we, or they, I'm a part of the band, we got to perform at Disney Springs, do a workshop with a Disney music producer, and just enjoy time at the parks. It was a great break. Littleton High School has been holding class meetings for the grades, freshmen, sophomores and juniors to select courses for next year. And the seniors are anxiously waiting college decisions. So if you have a senior, or if you know a senior, wish them luck, because things are getting decided this month. Very exciting. And right now there's the junior class auction, which if you're watching this, you're probably not at the junior class auction, but they're raising money to support their class, but also to go to the prom, the junior senior prom that is happening April 30th. So hope you at least manage to be there at the auction, help support them. And finally, this Friday or tomorrow, the Littleton High School Theater in accompaniment with the Littleton Middle School Theater kids are hosting a fundraiser called Miscast, where students are getting to perform whatever they would like, showcase their talents at the middle school tomorrow at, I believe, 6 p.m. So yeah, it's been a good return to break. Thank you.
Thanks, Stella.
Thanks, Donna.
I have a question. Stella, the parade is not just for the boys' teams, right? Are some of the girls' teams being celebrated as well? I'm asking.
It's just
It's
the
just the boys'
boys.
tomorrow? Okay. Well, then,
boys.
once again, I'm wrong. Okay. Sorry.
But the girls' track also, I believe, did very well at states. So congrats to them as well. But the parade is only for the boys.
Stella, thanks very much for the report. It seems like there's an awful lot going on, and that's terrific. I'll say the BMX thing was a big hit. Like anytime as a parent you come home from work and your child is like, Dad, I have to show this to you. It was the coolest thing ever. That's a huge win to make that connection between school and the house. So I know there's a lot of things that are taking place like that, but I chalked it up as a huge success. So thank you.
Dr. Clench, tell us a little bit about the February 28th vaccination clinic.
Yeah, we had another successful clinic on February 28th. 21 individuals were vaccinated. I talked to the owner of the vaccination company, and she wanted to come back March 21st for a clinic from 3 to 4 p.m. just to catch a few of our students that were ready for second doses. So offering a short clinic then.
What day was that? I'm sorry.
March 21st. 3 to 4 p.m. middle school cafeteria. And if there are more registrations that would require more than an hour to complete, we would extend the clinic as well. There is some understanding that our 5 to 12-year-olds will be ready for boosters, if they so choose, in March or April and May. So we've also set up 3 clinics for that reason, if it's approved. First clinic would be Wednesday, April 27th, 3 to 7 p.m. Second clinic, May 18th, which is a Wednesday, 3 to 7 p.m. And Wednesday, June 8th, 3 to 7 p.m. So keeping our fingers crossed that booster is approved for 5 to 11 year olds. Next, acknowledgement, February 15th was National School Resource Officers Day. Detective John Janakis has been working with our schools for many years. I just want to take this opportunity to give him a shout out. He does a tremendous job with our school district, connects very well with our children, and our staff, and our community. Very fortunate to have him on board. And he's had the pleasure of having 5 or 6 resource officers since I've been here. And they've all been incredible, and certainly continues to do a wonderful job. So congratulations to Detective Janakis. Looking forward to many more years having those RSR. A few more acknowledgements. Diane Crory was in speaking to me the other day. Diane Crory has been coaching high school girls field hockey for 30 years. That's incredible. I don't think I've ever had a coach in any district I've been in that has coached that long. It's had a very successful record, has touched the lives of many students. She's announced that she's going to retire from coaching. And we're just so fortunate to have her in our community and to have her as a coach for that long. It's just incredible. Mrs. Steele knows Mrs. Corey fairly well. And we're going to certainly miss her as part of our athletics program. So congratulations, Diane. And some exciting news I shared with you yesterday. We attended an MSBA meeting. That's the Building School Authority for Massachusetts, and actually had 2 meetings that way. We sent in a statement of interest called an SOI for Shaker Lane School. We were fortunate enough to be accepted into the first phase of the program. And this phase is actually called the eligibility period. It runs for approximately 270 days. For us, it begins July 1st. And what does that mean? It means that there are various things that we need to get done within the 270-day period. At the end of that period of time, we should be ready to present our plan for feasibility study. Then we have to go back to MSBA for their approval. If they move that forward and approve, then we would go into phase 2. School modernizations, new school building that's changed throughout the years, and the process is more elongated, and which is a good thing. And we have to make sure that we're doing what we need to do to provide a school to the community that's going to take care of everything that we would like to do. Realistically, by the time that school will be built, if we manage to move through all of the various phases and continue to receive approval, would be between 5 and 6 years. The doors would be open. So it's important to know how long it does take to actually start the process and finish the process. Very exciting though. This was only the second SOI that we submitted. We're pretty fortunate to be accepted so quickly into the first phase. And we will be bringing back more information at another meeting when we have more time on our agenda to talk about some of those various things.
Sounds good.
Can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
First of all, congratulations to you and Steve, whoever worked on that. That's remarkable. Well done, you. What is the likelihood that getting to this stage leads to money, which leads to shovels? Is it, if as long as we keep checking the boxes, is it we're just in the game, or is it's?
Well, there are a couple of factors. We need to be checking the boxes, which is really interesting here. If you miss one of the deadlines and you don't have a good reason for missing it and don't have their approval, you're out of the process and you have to submit a new SOI again. So it's very important that we meet those deadlines, and sometimes those deadlines will involve monetary contributions. And the first thing we would need to do during the first phase of the eligibility period is secure sufficient funds for a feasibility study. Our estimate now at this time, Steve, is around $700,000. $450,000. That was low.
That's what we have.
Well, so let me comment. So the other factor that we had failed to remember, I guess, or I had failed to remember, is not only do we have to do the feasibility study and have funds, we also have to hire a project manager to work through that feasibility study. So we have to build those costs as well. And that's part of what that difference is. And the costs have just skyrocketed in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I was only giving you a hard time.
No, but it's a good question, and
as Brad alluded to, like, we're all excited about this. I've already gone online. I've shopped for schools already. I've looked at the past projects. Some of these other
they don't do the model school program anymore. They used to, but they don't.
Oh, they don't?
No.
Pretty impressive stuff. Will PMBC run with this, or is this a subcommittee that we need to create? Or
well, there's PBFC will be involved. Part of our task is to create a school planning committee, and we'll work with MSBU and doing that. PMBC will definitely be involved. So good news in terms of the $700,000. MSBA will be contributing to some of that cost as long as it falls within the parameters and costs that they feel are necessary for a feasibility study. So we don't know at this point in time how much that contribution will be, but anything is helpful in this process.
Okay. Right. So to piggyback on that, MSBA contributes toward the cost, but again, it's toward the end of it. So it's a reimbursement when the project is done. It's not like they contribute money up front for the feasibility study. It's money that we put out, and then as we move down the process and they begin that reimbursement process at some point in time, then we get it's included in the eligible expenses that gets reimbursed.
Sure.
And the building committee is made up of, it will be both PMBC members and MSBA has strict guidelines about who has to be on that committee. Has to be a school committee member, has to be, I think, the principal, superintendent or his designee or something. So there's a very strict set of people that need to be on that committee. And we have to work through all that.
So to give you an idea of the first phase of the eligibility period, we have to submit an initial compliance certification. We have to create a school building committee, educational profile questionnaire, online enrollment projection, enrollment certification executed, maintenance and capital planning information, local vote authorization, and feasibility study agreement. That has to happen within 207 days. We begin on July 1st, 2022. Our eligibility period concludes on March 28th, 2023. That's a date I'd like all of us to remember because that's before town meeting. So we have to make sure that we have everything in place prior to that. Okay. So again, exciting news. It was a great week, and it was a 5th meeting I had with him in 2 weeks, and every meeting I had, I felt more optimistic. And, when they announced our name on Wednesday, it was incredible to be accepted.
Littleton was one of 17, I believe, accepted out of over 50 applicants this year. So
that's great. Yeah. Thanks, Al.
And my last acknowledgement, hopefully many of you at home and in the audience had an opportunity to go to the UCH experience, so to speak, last Monday night. We have another presentation on March 7th. It's delivered virtually and also live at the LHS auditorium from 6 to 7 p.m. I can't promote this more than I already have. I think it's a great opportunity for our families and children together. Talking about essential skills for life is something that's very important to all of us. So if you have some time next Monday night, please tune in to another hour filled with entertainment and powerful messages.
If I can add to that, Uch comes, I work for Parks and Recreation. Uch comes to Camp T, and he's just such a big hit. So just to second what Clenchie was saying, that it's just a great experience and the kids love it.
Chair, just in case people wanted to know, last Monday's event from Uch is airing on channel 36 for Verizon and channel 99 on Comcast at 4:30 a.m.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Finch. That brings us to our first presentation from Mr. Ganzenberg. He's going to give us talk about the Russell Street think tank and ukulele presentation.
Hey everyone, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right, so I am TJ Gansenberg. I'm the music teacher at Shaker Lane and Russell Street. So I don't have anything to share about the think tank, but I'm talking specifically about ukuleles today. So in the fall, we had received an LEF grant to purchase 30 ukuleles for the Russell Street music classroom that we're really excited about. So in the elementary music classroom, we have plenty of unpitched percussion instruments, things like woodblocks, tambourines. And then there are also instruments that you could play melodies on, like xylophones or recorders. But we haven't used our recorders in at least 2 years now because of COVID. So there hasn't exactly been the right time to start blowing into tubes with everybody in the small space. So I'm super excited that we have the ukuleles now because it's a very versatile instrument where we are able to play melodies and also play harmony. In other words, play chords, more than one note at a time. So without being able to play the recorders for the past couple of years, the ukuleles have been doing a great job filling that void. So it's been useful for engaging students with music literacy and ensemble playing, being able to play in the same room with other musicians. And it's I'm particularly excited about it because it's a much more contemporary instrument with transferable, relevant skills for like more contemporary music making. The skills are transferable to guitar, and there aren't many instruments where you can play more than one note at a time. You know, it's essentially, we've got guitar and piano. Those are the big ones. There are a few other ones, but most of the instruments our students learn how to play in band, or if they're in a strings program, are melody instruments. If they're learning trumpet or flute or something like that, they're playing one note at a time. So being able to play a harmony instrument is really versatile because you can sing along while you're playing, you can accompany others who are singing, things like that. So there's a brief clip of, it's a little sample of a 4th grade ukulele lesson from about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Yep, give me a minute here.
One, two, ready, see. Don't speed up. Repeat back to C.
DJ, you want the second clip now too, or you're not ready yet?
Yeah, you can play the second clip. So the second clip is students learning, they're starting to learn the music notes that we've learned on the staff, the lines and spaces of the treble clef. They're learning how to apply that to the ukulele. So this is single notes, one note at a time. What you just heard was chords, all the strings being played at once.
1, 2, ready, A. B. C. Good. 1, 2, ready, A. B. C. Awesome. Nice job today.
So our 4th graders are super excited about it, and 5th grade just started the week before our break, and they've been super excited about it as well. And I haven't figured out if I'm going to incorporate it yet with 3rd grade, but so far it's been a big hit at Russell Street, so we're super excited about it.
Great. Thanks, TJ. Any questions from the board?
That's great. TJ, thanks very much. Always have positive feedback in my household about music. I think that you make it fun, which is so important. Do you think that COVID was the death of the recorder? Are we going to be a ukulele system going forward, or what?
So the ukulele system is definitely here to stay. I don't know that recorders are going to be gone for good. I think the recorder is a beautiful instrument, especially if people play it well. So hopefully if I do my job well, then people are playing it well. So I would love to see the recorders come back into the curriculum, but ukuleles are filling that void right now. But I would definitely not get rid of the ukuleles anytime soon. They're just so much more versatile of an instrument.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Thanks, TJ. That brings us to old business. On February 10th, we had a presentation from a number of LHS students who were hoping to add Diwali to the calendar. I know there's a few here tonight that wanted to speak on that. Anya, if you want to come up and say a few words.
Oh, that's not
Arya, sorry.
So my name is Aria Watchsunder, and I'm an 8th grader at LMS. And I began this particular initiative a few months ago, working with these amazing students from the high school. We were at the previous school committee meeting where our proposal was presented, and to sum it up, we are asking the Littleton Public Schools to give Diwali a day off due to the rapidly growing population of Indian Americans in Littleton, and the stress which comes with having both school and festivities on the same day. Diwali originated as a festival commemorating sage Valmiki's epic, the Ramayana, and is the biggest holiday for Indians. Over the past 10 years, the Asian population in this town has increased by 367%. To add on to that, Massachusetts overall is known to have one of the highest Indian American populations in the US. Not to mention, having a day off on Diwali is not an alien concept. Acton, Boxborough, and Hopkinton schools will begin having a day off for Diwali starting next year. Westboro schools have a day off for students on Diwali, but a professional development day for teachers. And I must ask, how would you all feel if you had to push back celebrating holidays such as Christmas or Yom Kippur? And quite dissatisfied, I'm sure, which is how Indian Americans feel every year that they try to honor their culture and beliefs. I don't want young Indian Americans to feel like Diwali isn't as important as other holidays, which are given days off, and that it's not good enough to just have a full ceremony or puja, as we call it. We understand that this must be incredibly difficult for you all, and we thank you for all the work that you do for Littleton schools, but we hope that you will consider our plea for change. As Acton Boxborough's Diwali initiative starter, Deepika Prakash said, just because it hasn't been done doesn't mean it shouldn't be done. Thank you.
Thanks, Aya.
Thank you.
I believe we have a couple of videos also. Sure.
Hi, I'm Vishali Gade, President of India Association of Greater Boston, IAGB. IAGB is one of the oldest organizations for Indian Americans to foster social, cultural, and community presence in New England. As a citizen and as an organization, we always strive to foster and to unify the diverse culture of ours here in America. As the students of the Littleton Public High School are demonstrating the significance of Diwali in the life of Indian Americans, I would like to add, Diwali is the biggest celebration for Indians. It's the celebration to break free from the dark and walk towards the light. It's the prayer for health, knowledge, and peace. I would also like to add that we Indians celebrate Thanksgiving with the same zeal as Diwali. We have embraced both the cultures and to strengthen that bond of oneness, to conquer that quest for equality, and at the same time, bring awareness and acknowledge the diversity. I applaud LPS students' initiative to recognize Diwali as one of the holidays and fully support to recognize Diwali as one of the holidays on the Littleton Public Schools calendars. Thank you and all the best.
Don't know where it went. Give me a second, please. Somebody want to talk first?
Oh, we can certainly.
Sure.
It's up to you.
Yeah, that's fine. I know Steele was going to give a presentation on the draft calendar that was developed with a placeholder for Diwali in it. See what it looks like.
So it's part of the packet, and we can put it up on the screen. Oh, you can show the video.
Oh, do you have it? Because I lost it for some reason.
Ms. Aurora, a Littleton High, and this is my statement. So, being a first-generation Indian American, I hate to see that me and many of my peers are unable to celebrate Diwali the way we want to. Slightly feeling disconnected from my true Indian culture, getting the day off would allow me the opportunity to honor my heritage. Next year, if my brother and I were to have more time on Diwali, we would cherish the opportunity to perform essential rituals at the temple as a family and also attempt to make traditional sweets with friends and neighbors. Although some may believe that those who celebrate the holiday should get an excused absence in order to skip school, I think that this is the wrong option. Students, especially those in the high school and the middle school, would have to make up vast amounts of work in order to catch up with everyone else. In Littleton, the South Asian community has grown exorbitantly over the past 10 years, and we do not want to continue to have to perform a rushed puja or spend little time with our loved ones on this auspicious holiday. We have the support of countless faculty, students, and parents in the Littleton community. Students and staff understand that ultimately we will end the school year later in June than usual. However, they are willing to do this in order to allow their friends and peers to observe this holiday. In all, if the Littleton Public School System want to display a true commitment to showing equity and inclusion, they should not continue to prevent a growing community from being able to commemorate a significant holiday. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, Dorothea Lawson.
I have one quick thing to add. So I'm Madeline Kernan.
Come right up.
Sure. I'm a member of the DEI club at the high school. I'm also a senior. Giselle Kern and Rachel Friedman are also here tonight. They're from Littleton High School, and they're also members of the DEI club. And I just wanted to add, like Arv was saying, we've had a lot of student support even before the last school committee meeting, and then especially after that, a lot of students are aware about it at the high school. And even students who don't celebrate Diwali have been very supportive of the initiative. And additionally, we've had support from several of our teachers who I know are also watching tonight to see the results. So I just wanted to say, we appreciate your time and really thank you for allowing us to present again. And we're looking forward to seeing how the draft turns out. Thank you.
Thanks, Madeline.
Thank you.
Ms. Steele?
All right. So a lot of thought goes into the school calendar and many conversations, as is clearly evident by the students that we have here this evening. So if you look at the draft calendar as presented for the 22-23 school year, the draft starts with staff coming back on September 6th. It is a tricky year, the way that Labor Day falls. And
can you put it on the screen?
That would be great. Please,
Yeah,
thank
sure.
you. Thanks, Steve. So the way that September starts next year, it creates for a little bit of a funky schedule. This year we did have a 3-day as opposed to a 4-day weekend for Labor Day weekend. We received some feedback, and the 4-day weekend was more appreciated and maybe more desired. And so we heard that. And so looking at the beginning of next September, it makes it a little tricky of you start on that first or not. And so the draft that we're proposing for this evening starts with staff coming back on September 6th, students coming back on September 7th, and preschool starting back on September 12th. With these start dates, that means that our last day of school would be Thursday, June 22nd. That is not including any of the 5 snow days that are built into the calendar. That beginning and end date also include religious holidays of Yom Kippur on October 5th, of Diwali on October 24th, and of Good Friday on April 7th. This also includes all of the state and federal holidays that have been mirrored as in past years. Additionally, on this schedule, you'll see the PE days, the back to school nights, and the conference evenings and afternoons, and those mirror previous year's schedules as well. As we know, those are part of the collective bargaining agreement and entail a bit more conversation for changes. So that is what we are putting forth for the schedule for this evening. I just want to say thank you to all of those. Many voices go into this, and there's a lot of input. So thank you to all of those that have provided input forward so we could provide the schedule for you this evening.
Just a clarification question.
Sure.
So this is September 7th through June 22nd. Can you remind me, just because I don't have it off the top of my head, when the school is scheduled to end this year?
June 21st.
Okay, so it's one day.
For the 16th, but because of snow days, we're at the 23rd. I'm looking at last year's too, so.
Plus we added Juneteenth.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I was just gonna say. So another notice that you'll see is that we're ending after Juneteenth, this for the 22-23 schedule, which this year we were intended to end before, but now because of snow days, we're ending after. And so that is a recognized state holiday.
But this would be one of the latest starts, correct?
Possible.
With September 6th being the Labor Day falls.
It would be a later start. It's not the first time that we start after Labor Day.
No, I understand,
it is a
but
later
I'm saying
start.
it's one of the latest starts that we would probably have. So going forward, projecting next year would probably be an earlier school
That's
start.
correct. So
Yes.
That's correct, Matt. We've had a couple of later starts, problems that I've been here. So next year it should be, year after next, it should be a good year.
I have a procedural question. So do we have to approve this today? When's the latest that we could approve this calendar or a calendar?
We, I mean, we need to get it out. We're hoping that we can get approval today because people are used to having a calendar by this time of year, so they can plan for next year. If need be, we could postpone it to another meeting if necessary. I want to make sure that we give the calendar the consideration it deserves, and if we can come to an agreement tonight, that's great. If we want another 2 weeks to think about it, that's what we're going to have to do.
So there's two questions really. One first is whether we want to include Diwali in our calendars going forward. That would be one motion, and then the second one will be whether we approve this specific calendar. So at this time, why don't we discuss Diwali and how we feel about that, and then we can possibly move to a motion on that.
I'll start. I voiced this a couple weeks ago when we last met. Thank you all so much for your initiatives, for your participation in DEI, and generally, I'm very much inclined to approve adding Diwali to the calendar. I don't really see any particular reason not to, but I would ask as a group for feedback on what are the downsides. I think we've heard great things from students, teachers, others in the community. What are the potential downsides? What am I not thinking about here? I know it adds another day to the school year. Anything else?
Doesn't technically add another day. It just pushes it one day further.
Correct. It pushes us further into June by a day.
If you're asking for feedback, like I think there's some consensus among the committee here that I believe, all in favor of this. I think the risk is this becomes the third religious holiday, and then at some point do we have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 religious holiday? Like at some point, maybe it just becomes a federal holiday only type calendar, but certainly where we only have 2 on the calendar now, we're being asked for a third, and there seems to be a lot of community support, and I thank you for bringing this to our attention. That's the only downside that I see is eventually, should there be more brought to our attention, should our population within town change again, we might end up in a situation where we have to not celebrate any religious holidays because we got to get out before July 1st. And right now the contract doesn't allow us to start any earlier than September 1st.
Right.
So we're running out of days.
Right, Brad?
No, we're not at that position yet. And I just want to say again, I appreciate the advocacy and the, as a teacher, the quality of the argument, the different types of evidence you use. I really appreciated the way you made the case. And so, Justin, I would say that I think in the future, if an organized group comes to us with a petition with 400 signatures and organized teacher, and then we'll listen to it, and maybe we'll have to make more whole-scale, holistic decisions then. But I'm inclined to support this in part because I think they made a really persuasive argument.
Arya, sorry.
I do agree with your concern that there could be more religious holidays. After all, demographics in towns are always changing. But I think that it doesn't necessarily need to be seen as a negative or concerning thing. I think it's a conversation that's very important to have. And I think that right now it would be not incredibly detrimental to the community. I think it would be the opposite of that. I think it'd be great for the community. But I do think that keeping the amount of religious holidays that we have in mind as well is very important.
I think there are a couple of things to consider here. I mean, first of all, we're not the only community that is having this conversation. And it's probably dependent on community demographic changes. And we're at a point in Littleton where our demographics have changed. I believe it was 21% now of our population would celebrate this holiday. Other communities have made a decision to add Diwali to the calendar at this point in time. I haven't heard of any that haven't that are considering it, but some still haven't made a decision. When I look at religious holidays in general and look at the cultural component of it, I mean, we've made equity a huge focus in our district, and we've done a good job. This is an example of the results of making sure that we turn over every rock and take a look at equity within our district, all aspects of our district. So one of the concerns I have is, as we move forward, is making sure everybody realizes, and I think the students did a great job of explaining this. It's really difficult to celebrate a cultural holiday if it's not given to you and then keep up with the workload. And as a superintendent, as a principal of the high school and middle school for sure, we see the effects of our students when they do get behind with schoolwork. It's very, very stressful. And we do provide support, but the pace of learning in middle school and high school is fairly significant. So what happens in a lot of cases is our students choose to go to school rather than celebrate that holiday. And as a result, we're not intentionally, but unintentionally taking away a bit of their culture. So I just wanted to say that. That's what I've been wrestling with for a while on this. I mean, I've seen it for many years with various religious holidays. We're very fortunate in our community to have Yom Kippur recognized as a first holiday. A lot of communities haven't done that, and I've been in communities where that hasn't happened, and I've seen the struggles that some of the families have had during that time. So.
Thanks so much. Again, just to reiterate, I've been very impressed with the DEI Club, what they've done, come voicing their opinions. I know one of our goals as a school committee, even going to the town and the master plan, is to promote equity, and this would certainly go along that idea. Definitely, I've actually reached out, I know, to your coordinator, Dr. Turner, and I want to hear more from the DEI and just some of your ideas. So I'll be coming in at some point to chat with you guys. Just use me as a sounding board. What's going on? So very exciting stuff. I think at this time we're ready to take a motion on specifically Diwali.
I'll motion to add Diwali to the school calendar.
Second. Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's done. Congratulations, guys.
Good job,
Good
guys.
work.
Yes, great work. Thank you.
All right. That brings us back to the regular calendar. We can have some more discussion on the specifics of the calendar. I don't know if you want to bring that back up on the screen. Given the current collective bargaining agreement, the ability to start before September 1st, it pigeonholes when we can start. So I don't know if there's many improvements that we can do or changes, but I'm hoping to listen.
As the newest member of the school committee, I'd like to ask for a quick primer on a question I get from a lot of parents about our half days, right? Our town has more half days. They're all on Wednesdays than a lot of our surrounding towns. And I don't understand the background or why they're all on Wednesdays, why there's so many of them. So I'd love to hear what that's all about, and maybe what some other potential scenarios might be, because I know parents reach out to me about childcare, difficulties on all those half days is the main thing. People have to work and their kids come home by noon.
I can say in my career, wherever I've been, it's not uncommon to have half days. They vary anywhere from, for PD specific, 8 to 12 has been my experience. And then you have to incorporate parent-teacher interviews in the evenings as well, which is typical of every district. In terms of when they're held, during my time here, before my time here, we tried different things and tried different days. We found our community, by and large, appreciated the same day for planning, except if they needed childcare. We're trying to put it on a day where we feel we're going to get the greatest benefit of professional development from our staff as well. For example, we had tried some Fridays, and after we evaluated it, after doing it for a few years, we just felt that it would be better off to do it during the day of the week rather than on Friday. So we're always open to suggestions. It is contractually bound at this point in time, but the contract doesn't dictate what day of the week it is. It dictates the number of half days. In terms of moving forward, when we negotiate, I really can't talk about strategies in public session, but give you some thought process in terms of what I've done in the past. First of all, Massachusetts determines the school year by a number of days. I've been in areas that actually use hours and minutes, believe it or not. So it gave us flexibility to adjust our school days to create opportunities for professional development through the elongation of school days. You have to remember we need 180 days. So if we would like a full day of PD, we have to extend the school year. There's really no other way to do it. Some of the things that have been done, and we did do this with that full day that we have on election day. We negotiated that with the union about 5-6 years ago, I guess now. And we were able to settle on another leave day for them giving us a full PD day in return to that. So it did push our calendar out by 1 day. So you always have to remember the half days, because they're half days, it doesn't affect the 180 days. So the minute you go to a full day, you have to make up that full day.
A half day is considered a full day of learning? Is that what you're saying? Okay.
By the Department of Education.
But we also are subject to a time on learning requirement.
That's right. That's built into our account.
Can you review that? Well, you mentioned some sort of negotiation. You said we gave them or they received, I'm not sure who was getting what, the full PD day, and in return, someone else got something else.
Right. So I guess for simplistic terms, when you're negotiating, you're trying to develop a win-win situation. In the end, we were able to give them an additional leave day per year, and in return, we were able to gain a full day of PD.
But leave day, personal leave day, someone in the staff can take a personal leave. Is that what you're saying? So
well,
not everybody takes it at the same time.
We have leave days.
Yeah.
We don't have personal days. We have leave days in their contract. Yeah. So they're all bunched together.
Sure.
Which was a very fair deal. Again, I'm not. When you go to the negotiation table, you try to work together to do what's best for our students. They need to be the focal point. And I think it is time that we review what we're doing again. Personally, I'd like to see 1 or 2 more full days of PD. I wouldn't want to get rid of all the half days, but I think we could benefit from some full days. But that has to be part of our negotiation process.
Yeah, we'd likely have to start before September 1st.
I would
build those in.
Yeah.
If we have to move forward the calendar tonight, I suppose I'm prepared to move forward the calendar tonight. I have some feedback for the committee, or potentially, I think like our next item on the agenda is the formation of a calendar committee or something like that. Are you going to talk about that?
No, actually, it's not on our agenda.
Should I misinterpret that?
Yeah, but we
should have
our calendar. This is operational. We develop the calendar and then we take it to the school committee for approval. So in terms of the process, we start a calendar internally with our leadership team, then we meet with the LEA.
Okay.
And consultant. It's a consultative capacity. It's not a decision-making body. And then we take their advice, create a calendar, take a look at it, make sure we feel good as an administration that we're comfortable with the days that we have PD days, and also try to minimize the disruption during the week as much as we possibly can. And we look at the calendar as you know, every full week that we're here, or the week that we're here, we want to maximize learning. And that's how we organize the calendar. And then we present it to the school committee.
Okay.
For your approval. This is one of your, believe it or not, this is one of your functions that there are side functions that, I mean, school committee's primary functions are the global budget and policy and working with the superintendent. But there are some other components. This is one component that falls under school committee.
Sure. So my feedback is not meant to challenge the superintendent or the committee that put this all together. Just to, again, along the lines of what Jen was saying is, hey, we hear a lot of feedback, of course, because it impacts all of the families in town. So when I look at the calendar, we're in school for 39 weeks. 66% of them have some sort of interruption. It'd be a day off or a half day. So only a third of the time are we actually clicking on all 5 days at a time, which especially I think is, you know, in the beginning of the year, there might not be the stamina at the very beginning of the year, but you got to get into the routine as you get going so that there can be some sort of classroom mojo. So I just kind of wanted to highlight that there's it's not up there anymore, but
put it back up.
There's a lot of color on the calendar. And unfortunately, it's federal holidays, it's religious holidays, which we would like to celebrate, and it's contractual half days. But perhaps there's a way that we could do this where it would be less impactful. So I'm aware of other school districts taking the Friday before a school vacation week and making that a half day. I think that's actually a common thing around some surrounding communities. So just an idea for consideration or for future topics. It's a full day for the staff anyways, as it sits right now on the calendar. It will remain a full day for the staff. It's just, it kind of would just slide it towards the Friday, which I think a lot of those communities appreciate.
Yeah, as a parent, I love that idea. As an educator, I'm wondering how someone who's in a high school teaching a couple weeks ago, if we heard from our administrators that PD is really important for achieving some successes we've been achieving, I'm not sure slotting a lot of them right before vacations in the afternoons before vacations is the best way to get, teachers are people, to get their full attention and to make decisions about, we're talking about equity, we're talking about these other things, you know, reading strategies and literacy strategies. I'm not sure that's cool. We'll get the best result there.
I get it.
But as a parent, and we represent parents too, obviously, you know, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, well, and obviously I understand that point completely. You know, we're advocating for the community and we want the best of the school system. And if we're not going to get the best on those Friday PD days, then maybe it's not worthwhile. I mean, I do note that we are proposing a half day the Friday before Memorial Day. So there are also 3 other Monday holidays where we could slide a half day to the Friday, and then you've got, you know, we're doing it once, why not do it a couple other times?
There's some potential there, and I'm not thinking of a PD day. There are other ways we can do this as well. Have a half day, a full day PD day out of it, and also coming. So
we almost can't though, because we're out of days.
Well, no, there are ways. It's going to elongate the calendar no matter what. But I do have some strategies that we can use in negotiation to help. But I do want to caution the number of PD days or half days, more correctly, before holiday, because it is difficult to get what we need out of those PD days. The staff are ready to go, and there are some districts out there that will just not have a PD day in 7 months as well. We don't see that on the calendars. As a superintendent, I see it internally when I talk to the superintendent. So
right,
but there is some potential, and I know it's a hardship on some of our families. And again, it is more common, and I think you understand how common it is. I'm going to say it's very common in districts to have half days, and the number does vary. Again, what do we need to continue on the path of success that we have? We're always willing to talk about that and reevaluate it. But I can say with certainty, PD days for staff make a huge difference the education that our children receive and the toolbox that our teachers have to teach students. And that toolbox changes all the time. I mean, it's not static. So, but it is time. And in fact, believe it or not, I made this comment pre-pandemic that I think we do need to do a full review of our calendar and PD days, and also the start of the school year, because that's limiting what we can do. And I understand that we have a number of staff that supported Diwali from the information we received from our students. So that in itself may be a good way to frame the conversation about the start of the school year when we go back to negotiations at the end of 23.
Right, I agree with that. I mean, I'm looking at the calendar for next year. We're probably not going to start until September 6th because Labor Day is on the 4th. The staff's going to go in on the 5th, likely. So we're literally going to run into the same problem next year. So I do think it's time to. I mean, the contract's good through the end of 23. So the time to start talking about it with the LEA would probably be the next time we broach the subject. It'll just give us a little bit more flexibility to get creative with the calendar if we can shift a day or two. My other question was on the conferences. Again, contractually, it appears that the conferences for K through 5 are 6 half days.
Yes.
I'm just wondering if we could revisit that in the future, because anecdotally, you know, my 3 kids, the evening conferences seem to fill up faster than the half-day conferences. You get dual income households these days. I know remote's an option or virtual is an option, which makes it easier, but I'm also seeing a lot of folks request in person because it's nice to get back in person. So I'm just wondering, as opposed to doing like 3 half days in one evening, maybe going forward, we could do 2 half days and 2 evenings or something like that.
I think that would be valuable. Just my kids are past that age now, but I know that was always an issue with my wife and I both working, trying to get a spot, and they fill up very quickly because there's less evening times. So the expectation is that they're meeting on that half day in the afternoon. We're still working. So I think that's definitely something that we can look at.
The other question I had was, we've got 5 middle school half days for conferences, and contractually, I don't think we have to have any. I recognize that we might want to have some, but if you have a 6th grader and a 4th grader, you end up with twice as many half days in that household. It gets complicated when it's not up there anymore. But when I look at the calendar, I look at December and February, and I'm like, those are great months. You know, you got a holiday, you got one red day, and there's a lot of activity in these other months, and it's very difficult for families to keep up with all of this.
And I certainly look at that when we negotiate. I mean, the high school is something that we brought up for the past 2 negotiations specific to parent-teacher conferences, and we're not where we need to be. So I mean, this topic would have been on the docket, so to speak, anyway, because we need to figure out something different for high school. It's just not, in my opinion, as the educational leader with significant high school experience as a teacher and an administrator, we can do better. We just have to figure out what that means. So,
well, I guess my question then is, Justin, are you still on? So my question then is what latitude do we have? If we're constrained by a contract that's been negotiated and run through 2023, if we're constrained by a start date, we're constrained by 180 days. It seems like Justin and some other people have identified there's some flexibility in these places. I was prepared to support the calendar tonight if you need to vote. But if what we really need for families is they need to know the first day so they can figure out if they can get away or something. And they don't really need to know the last day, or they don't really need to know what days or half days in February. I wonder if we have enough latitude that would be worthwhile for us to agree on a start day, and to put more on your plate and ask you to take one more look at it with some of these ideas in mind, and maybe come back and say, this is all we can do right now with the constraints, but moving forward, this will be a priority. or if you think there might be any place to kind of to move, have some movement. And I don't know. This is an open question.
There really there isn't movement. The only movement we have is do you want to start on the 6th, or do you want to back it up to the 1st for teachers? That's about all the movement you have right now. And even though I feel uncomfortable talking about contract negotiations in public session, but there's something called precedent setting.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do something in the district for a number of years, it becomes synonymous to being in a contract. So that's all I'm going to say. Sure. I feel uncomfortable going any farther in public sessions.
To help move things along, I'm perfectly okay entertaining the idea of declaring a start date. We know where the school holidays are, the weeks off. We know when the religious holidays are. Really, we can't move the start date to the 1st. I mean, none of us would be in favor of sending the kids to school for one day. That's not going to happen. So we can declare the first day of school, in my opinion, as the 7th. And I guess I like Brad's idea of giving you 2 weeks to see if maybe there is an appetite to slide some of these professional development days, get a little bit creative, put them on a Friday before a long weekend, put them on the Friday before vacation, and don't just reject the idea because it's something that we've always done. Maybe look at some of the other communities or get some feedback from some of the communities that are doing it to see if it's actually worthwhile.
Yeah, and I think to what Justin, what you were saying, I mean, I happen to have one kid in 2 schools. Many of our families have kids in 2, 3, or even 4 schools. Is there a way to better cluster the half-day conferences on the same days? So at least you've got coverage, if you need coverage at home for a half day, or I don't know. I mean, I think that would be helpful too.
No, it's funny, Jay, we've heard the opposite, where they wanted different days because it's difficult to get appointments anyway. So if you put them all on the same day, you make it
jump around.
So, I mean, we can look at a couple of Fridays if that would be the wish of the school committee, and we'll go back and have that conversation. I'd like your input on this as well. I mean, I didn't meet with the LEA purposely. I always have designate for me to meet with them. So I'd be interested in your thoughts as well.
Yeah, I think 2 things that are important. One, my immediate thought with moving to Fridays, my immediate PD is one of my main functions, or one of my main responsibilities. And getting contracted services on Friday afternoon might be a little bit harder, not impossible, might be a little bit harder. I'd have to research that a little bit. And the other is the effectiveness of those Friday afternoon PDs. I think it's totally valid. Also, not only the Friday afternoon PDs, but the Friday mornings with students, right? They know it's a half day. Sounds not in your head. You know it's a half day before a long weekend, or you know it's a half day, it's a Friday going into the weekend. And so I think not only do we need to consider the afternoon PD for our adults, because we are people and humans, and I appreciate that comment, but our students are also children who then have a half day going into, you know, there's that excitement there too. So I think a couple of things that need to kind of be researched into and thought out a little bit more, and more conversations need to be had with a handful more people if this is something we want to look into.
I can say, coming from a district that does have its PDs on Fridays, I actually have one tomorrow, half-day PD, though in my district, half-day means 12 o'clock, because we need to make sure that students receive lunches every day. There's pros and cons to it. I think that I think probably in the younger grades, kids are a little bit more checked out on Fridays, and some adults can be checked out too on Fridays, but there's definitely there's pros and cons we can discuss, but I know that's in my district, we've always done Friday PDs. So at this point, why don't we move forward with a motion on the start date?
I'll move that the first day of school is September 7th for the students, which means the staff would come back on the 6th.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion made second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we got a start date. We can take
Sounds
2
good.
weeks.
I would really encourage us to make a quick motion next meeting, because there are many parents in our community, in every community, that actually calendar doctor's appointments, dentist appointments on those half days. They have those calendars all mapped out. So I just want to make sure that we meet their needs. We'll take a look at some Friday PD days and see what we can do.
That brings us to our update on mass flexibility at Russell Street and LHS. LHS had started prior to February vacation. We had Russell Street join in on Tuesday, March 1st. We're having Shaker Lane and middle school join in tomorrow. So just a little bit of update on what's
Sure.
seen.
Yeah, we did miss one.
On the school committee calendar, sorry.
Oh, sorry. My bad. Yeah, why don't we do that one first? So, the school committee calendar, Dr. Bunch is gonna do that.
In your package, similar to last year. So I hope you've had a chance to take a look at it.
Yeah.
And, if you do not have any questions, I would appreciate a motion for approval.
My only question, and I don't mean to challenge anybody, is would it be beneficial to anyone, including the town, to maybe move the budget meeting even just 1 week earlier? Just from like a cursory observation of some neighboring towns, others sort of have had their public hearings prior to us. If you tell me, hey, March 16th is the date is to be, that's fine. There's no benefit to moving it on the 2nd, or we can't do it, then just leave it. But now would be the opportunity to just bump it earlier a week, which kind of gives everybody a little bit more time on the back end.
First of all, town meetings are different in every community, and we usually try to go 45 days, around 45 days prior to the town meeting. We could back it up on a good budget year. That's doable. On a budget year that's challenging, it might be more difficult, but that doesn't mean that we could not change it from year to year, depending on how we feel. I have no idea what next budget year is going to be like at this point in time, but I mean, a week isn't that much of a difference, provided things are going smooth. So I'm certainly open to doing it a week earlier.
This would be moving it to March 2nd, to one meeting earlier. But
on the other hand, I don't think there's a benefit to moving it 2 weeks earlier.
Okay.
In regards to the town annual town meeting.
Okay.
That's just my observation.
Kind of that was my question.
Yeah.
My only question about this was that I know this year years we've been on it, we started meeting before the school year starts in public meeting, and this doesn't include that. I don't know if we wanted to, if our school years will start on September 7th. Maybe there's.
We have August 18th.
Oh, is that a public meeting, or that's a? I thought that was our retreat.
Right. So we typically, well, it depends on the year. We try to meet within the first couple of weeks of school. So
okay, but not necessarily before. If we need one before, we can schedule it. Okay. Thank you.
You can always schedule an extra.
Great. We've proven that. Then I move we approve this school committee calendar for 23, 24, or 22, 23.
Second. Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Now, back to what I was saying about the update on the mass flexibility. Dr. Punchy, if you want to.
Sure. Livingston High School on Tuesday resumed their mass flexibility. Things went very, very smooth. Russell Street School started mass flexibility on Tuesday. It also went very well. I have to give a shout out to Russell Street School and Shaker Lane at the middle school for getting everything ready for implementation. There is a lot of work that needs to be done, and we make it look easy, but folks, it's a lot of work. And everybody rolled up their sleeves, made sure we were ready to go, and we're excited to start tomorrow. As of tomorrow, all 4 schools will be offering mass flexibility. So we're really proud of what we've all done together. That's incredible. So give you an idea of Middle school, people that are signed up and eligible for mass flexibility, 9% of our students, which is really high. That's
is that 90 or 9?
90.
Okay, thank you.
Really bad.
That's what I thought.
And Shaker Lane, we have 60% at this point. And I do not have a number for Russell Street. I was there the other day. I hate guessing because when you're walking around in the classroom, it's kind of hard to put everything together, but I would say close to 60%, 65%.
I'll just interject, Kelly. I checked with Nicole Berry before I came on. It's 80.
Wow, I was off. 80%.
A little. Yeah, 80.
Thank you.
All right. That brings us to our next.
I have a question about that. A question about the mass flexibility.
Yep.
So at Shaker Lane.
Come on up.
Oh my God, that's so uncomfortable for me.
All right, can you just state your name and where you live?
I have a 3-year-old. It's so intense in here.
Can you say the name of your address, please?
Yeah, Jessica, and it's 18 Acre Street. What are we supposed to, Sullivan, what are we supposed to say to our 3-year-olds when half the class doesn't wear a mask and half does? And my child is like part of the integrated preschool class, and he would also not understand somebody coming at him with a Q-tip once a week. I mean, so what are we supposed to say to them? You have to wear a mask. They don't. I feel like they don't understand what's going on because of the flexibility situation. I feel like we're kind of leaving our little friends out that aren't understanding because they're there. Like my son has a developmental delay. So what do we say to these little guys?
I think that's one of the things we're going to talk about, but that's a good question. So appreciate your comment. As we move into the update on to the other conditions for required mass flexibility, that's one of the things we're going to talk about. The pool testing, whether we want to maintain this, whether we want to get rid of it. There have been a lot of changes over the past month, exceedingly rapidly. Changes going from DESIs, moving for the February 28th. Just changes in what we're seeing. We're seeing, myself, I've had members of my family come down with COVID, and swab. Greg Panini mentioned that the swab is not always accurate. People are contagious with the Omicron virus. Is it worth keeping the pool testing in place moving forward? We've done over the past year, we've developed a really robust program to see that we have 90% of our middle school able to participate in that, over 80% of the high school able to participate in that, 60% of Shaker Lane. Has it served its purpose? Or at this point, we are looking at some of the other districts where we were kind of ahead of the game for a while. We're now becoming an outlier looking at other school districts. So at this point, I'll open up discussion on whether we see mass flexibility as something that, pool testing as something we want to continue with as part of the mass flexibility program.
I'd like, if I can start, I'd like to just provide some context. I think the folks around these tables know this, but for people watching, and a reminder how we got here, why we have a pool testing requirement in place. We as a school committee, I think we were very forward thinking. We had if you all remember, not that long ago, the Board of Health had a mask mandate in our town. They passed that mask mandate much earlier than most towns around us. I think it was in place in September or early October. And we were pushing for mask flexibility very early. Omicron hit and things got a little crazy with the case counts, and we waited. But we went and we asked the Board of Health to give our schools that were 80% vaccinated per DESI a mask mandate. And the Board of Health pushed back hard and said no. We asked for a mask waiver with no conditions in place. The Board of Health said no. And they put in place certain conditions, and they pushed back, and they put 3 conditions in place as a proposal. 4% prevalence or more, the mask back on, pool testing requirement, and parental consent. And We agreed to that because at the time, that was the only option we had. And we really wanted to give the kids and staff who wanted mask flexibility the chance to do so. So we agreed to that. And so it passed. And almost immediately after that, the Board of Health dropped the town mask mandate. That's how we got here. So here we sit. As far as I know, we're the only school district in the state that has dropped the mask mandate and made, for the schools and made masks optional, but kept certain conditions in place. So if you think about it, we started out really progressively, really forward thinking, trying to get this done early. And we ended up in a place where we're way behind almost every other town that has done this. So it's a very strange situation. And so, I mean, I feel very strongly that we should drop all the conditions, certainly drop pool testing as a condition. I don't think it's fair to anyone. I think it's causing incredible strife at the schools. I mean, the amount of work is inconceivable to me of tracking all of this. As Matt and others have said, the pool testing, it misses so many cases. And our case counts are nearly zero. I mean, DESI has made masks flexible. Our whole state is in the green. Like, there are so many clear indicators that we should drop these requirements and just go mask flexible for those who want it. Anybody that wants to wear a mask can and should, absolutely. But that is my strong feeling. We've gotten an incredible amount of support for this position from families over the past couple of weeks. And that's how I feel.
Right.
Yeah, I would just, thanks for that summary, Jen. It's really helpful. We voted on February 10th, the Board of Health met on February 11th. There was one other condition. It was that we would be masked for the week after February vacation. And there was a reason we all supported this, right? We supported it because it's a previous deal we made with Board of Health. There's a reason because we're sending 50, 60 high schoolers to Florida. Everybody was traveling around the country. Our schools reflect our community. But this last week, they also reflected the community they were in. I'm not ashamed of the vote we took. I thought it was the right and prudent thing to do. The numbers convinced me, two numbers convinced me that maybe it's time to take it out. One, the number of cases we have in the school. And the other is the high percentage of people who were participating in pool testing beforehand. I still think it's valuable. I think the number that I've stuck in my head is about half the cases we caught through pool tests are asymptomatic tests. There's some evidence it's disputed about the efficacy of the Pfizer vaccine and just how much of a vaccine protection we can count on for 5 to 11-year-olds that came out this week. But if we can, and the idea that we can still give students who want them tests to take on Thursdays, that we can, for those who want to, do pool testing, and I hope that a large percentage of our students still do, our students and our faculty and staff. And as long as our case counts remain really, really low, I think we're okay. The idea that we've fallen far behind, though, I think we're maybe 3 days behind. We're down to arguing about 3 or 4 days. I still think it was the prudent thing to do. I can see a way to remove it now because we've basically had the week after the vacation and our case count is really low.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think there was a time when it had more value than it was. I think the pool testing still remains valuable. It was more valuable with Delta when we're seeing being able to pick up those, but just from what we're seeing with Omicron, that the viral load is more in the back of the throat. The nose doesn't always pick it up. I think you are going to miss some, but like I said, I strongly encourage people to still participate in the pool testing. My children participate in it. I think it is helpful to get the data, but Jen also makes a valuable point in saying this is a lot of work, extra work that we're putting on our nurses, to keep our teachers to keep track of this. And now we have become an outlier. I agree with Brad. I think at the time, I think it was the prudent decision. We just had a meeting with the Board of Health where this was put into place. I think it would have been disingenuous to then say, okay, we're not going to go along with our agreement. But times have changed. It's been the playing field has completely changed over the past month. So, at this point, I would be fine getting rid of pool testing as a requirement for mask flexibility. As you see some of the parents say, some of the reasons make very valid reasons why it is difficult. And, I don't know the answer to your question of how you tell a 3-year-old. So that being said, I would be in support of removing pool testing as a requirement for mask flexibility. As far as the other condition being a prevalence, whether we actually have to have that in there, or, to me, when I met with the Board of Health, I argued that, we are aware, we are responsible. If we see a rise in cases, the administration, we're going to react and we're going to, we'll do something about it. Whether we have to actually set a number, because we don't know exactly what that number is. For Omicron, it's maybe different from the next strain that comes along, whether we have. So, I would encourage administration to keep a track of prevalence, but whether that is we hit a 4%, that might not be the right number. So, Justin.
A lot of good points made so far. I'll just jump on the prevalence thing because I'm in favor of just dropping the conditions and just kind of return to normalcy, as many districts did on 2/28 when the decision was made. Desi said, hey, 2/28, you can just go without a mask, come as you are. In fact, they're actually suggesting that they're encouraging you to not mask because that's a return to normalcy. And in the same breath, they're saying, make sure you support those that want to wear a mask, which of course, as a school system, we're going to do that. But yeah, so many things changed. Desi changed. We were waiting forever. Sorry, not Desi, CDC. We were waiting forever for the CDC to change that ridiculous standard that they had. And then all of a sudden we went from high to low. It's something that we've known for the longest time. Then the busing thing changed. So my only feedback is, I'm sorry that the administration had to go through what you went through to get ready. And it was a calendar snafu. The Board of Health did what the Board of Health did. I'm sure they're 5 very fine individuals, but to put a conditional waiver in place when we asked for an unconditional one and then drop it 2 days later after we met and we don't have a meeting. So I'm sorry that the families had to go through this week. In my mind, I thought it was ridiculous. I wish we met earlier. We weren't able to. So I'm all in favor of sort of eliminating the outlier conditions and just doing what most are doing, which is, effective tomorrow. Pool testing is a good thing. We're not saying pool testing is going away. It's just pool testing is no longer tied to your ability with mask flexibility.
I think it's time. I think that this for 2 years now into this pandemic, and people have put up with a lot of sacrifices. If there's a time to do it, it's now. Things may change down the road, but for right now, I think that we can move forward without any conditions.
I would just say 2 things. One is, for me, it's not about the time we've been doing this, because if conditions were different, I wouldn't support this. It's about what the conditions are. And the second is, we do need to acknowledge that according to our survey data, there are about 30% of families who are really, really uncomfortable with some of this. And I hope our messaging continues to be, as Justin says, and this is where our student reps or others can help us, our principals can give us feedback on. There's none of this. There's no judgment for people who are wearing masks. Sometimes we're wearing masks for a reason, right? And I want those families who have kids who are immunocompromised, who are in these programs for whatever reason, or in the schools for a reason, or if they're going home, that they feel really comfortable. And I hope that, I think it was Stella said earlier, that sometimes we participate in pool testing to help give others a sense of comfort, right? That I think it's one of the things Dr. Harrington's talked to us about is the notion that we're trying to teach our kids empathy. And helping others feel comfortable with this decision is a sign of empathy. It's a sign of maturity. I hope we have more students participate.
And just a couple of things. Great discussion tonight. This has moved at lightning speed. When you think of where we were a few weeks ago, when Desi relinquished, I'm going to use the word relinquish, their control, to local control. I want to make that very clear to our public. Is the decision of DESE to get out of the business of determining whether districts mask or not. The reason they did that is they felt it was time to go back to local control to school districts. And that seemed to be missed in some of the messaging for some reason. It wasn't missed in our district, but it was missed at the state level. I do think it's time, and again, thanks to a parent in our community, we were able to track what some of our districts, other districts were doing. And they were implementing mask flexibility really quickly. The only question I have is school committee felt pretty committed to having parent permission. I'm not sure I go either way. Is this no longer something you're concerned about? If it is, I'm fine with that, but I just wanted to bring that up.
I am not concerned about it because I think it's, again, a return to normalcy. It's flexible. If you want to wear a mask, wear one. If you don't. If you want to do both. In fact, I would encourage members of the staff to maybe, if they're comfortable with it, be flexible throughout the day so that some of the students see it both ways. But I just think it's something that is not really necessary. And it's an administrative burden. I want to get out of the COVID business and get back to the educational business of running the district. So I want to take that off your plate.
I would agree. I think we just dropped the conditions. That's how we originally asked for it, February 10th or whatever that was. And I think that was what we wanted. And I'd like to get back to what we originally wanted.
I concur. So there's really two different things we're going to talk about. Where the conditions that were in place for mask flexibility, and then we're going to move on to the requirements for masks on school buses and vans next. So at this point, I'd take a motion specifically for the conditions on mask flexibility within the schools.
I will make the motion to drop all the requirements for mask flexibility and just move forward with mask flexibility with no conditions.
Second that motion.
Okay. Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that brings us to.
Matt, before we jump on, can I wanted to weigh in on the
Oh, yeah, sure.
Our little ones a little bit because the
Yep.
actually has done some nice work on that. So thank you for asking that.
Because it's such a great program. It's just like
it's a
just don't really know how to answer our questions.
Yeah. So we've been really sensitive to this all along because we've treated our 3- and 4-year-olds as part of our all of the guidance that has come out from DESE has been K-12. And so we have really incorporated our preschoolers because they're part of the Shaker Lane school community. So we've incorporated them into school testing. We've had them, wear masks, just like the school community. But many of them have struggled all along with wearing masks. Many of them struggle wearing mittens and a hat. And so the teachers and counselors and speech therapists are doing a lot to really address those issues. A lot of them are developmental. They deal with that at snack time. Why does Johnny have Cheetos and I have carrots? And so all of those issues do come up developmentally and they are being addressed. And so we do expect that we'll encounter them, but the speech pathologists are doing social stories and instruction with the students. The counselors are working on this. And so it is being addressed for all of the students who have any challenges with really being able to kind of navigate this time that we're going to have to get through because we've done it all along. And so we've already started using some resources. The speech pathologists have been developing social stories about it's okay if somebody's wearing a mask and I'm not wearing a mask. And if somebody asks for space, that's okay too.
Yeah. Right. I mean,
I guess I'm just following the point that we're all in a room without a mask on and people who want to wear a mask are wearing a mask and it's the same thing as a classroom, right?
Right.
So I feel like it's the parents' choice. If you want to send a kid with a mask, that's great. If my son's sick, I would keep him home or wear a mask. If somebody else at home is if I'm sick at home, maybe just wear a mask. I know you're not sick or to protect others, but this is the same as the classroom setting right now.
And I think that's the important thing to consider too.
To market basket right now. So.
Right, and there's going to be flexibility within the flexibility. So, if Johnny has a runny nose, he might be wearing a mask for a week, and a parent might say, I'm going to have Johnny wear a mask for a week, and that's okay too, and we're going to work with families individually.
My son's teacher's been amazing, but I'm just saying, like, going forward, I just want to make sure that our little people aren't forgotten, because it's such a great program, but there's a lot of little people.
Yes,
Like that we
yes,
need to remember that.
just don't, I don't even just conceptually understand.
They do great with it.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of our little ones, I will pitch that some of them are doing a great job wearing masks, even better than some of our high schools.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Lynn.
The next order of whole business is the CDC lifting requirements to wear masks on school buses and vans. We have discussion on this. I don't think there's really much need, but I'll accept a motion if anyone. But
I think they should wear them on buses. I'm kidding.
I've made enough motions tonight. Someone else can start.
I'll make a motion that masks are no longer required on school buses and vans.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so we've accomplished quite a bit tonight.
Can I say one thing though?
Sure.
I just want to assure everybody that from a facility side and a bus side, we're still doing all the other mitigation strategies.
Yeah.
We're still cleaning. We can still open windows on buses to allow the fresh air, and we're still having fresh air and the windows open in the classrooms and bringing fresh air in. We're still doing all those other strategies as well. I just want to make sure everybody knows that.
Correct.
What about the filters, Steve?
Yep. Still got the filters.
Okay, the filters, yeah.
Could I just add one thing too about nurses' offices?
Yeah.
They will still be required in health offices. There will be masks available in the nurses' offices, and so if anybody ever needs a mask, they will be there. They can get one because if they're not required on buses, you know, kids may be coming to school without a mask in hand, and that's okay. We have plenty of masks.
Yeah, and likewise, we will still have the drivers have masks available on buses. If a student wants to get on and feels like they need to wear a mask, there will be masks available on the buses as well.
What kind of mask? Because I know we've spoken about how the KN95s with this type of mask is the most effective. Would we be having those or just the general 3-ply disposable ones?
We did buy some KN95 masks, child-sized ones. So those are available through the nurse's office.
Yeah, so we have child-sized KN95s as well. We have adult-sized KN95s, and then if it's a student who's just coming in for a quick health office visit, we would just be using a regular
surgical mask or something.
And we'll do this while supplies last and reevaluate them when we're at. I mean, the landscape continues to change, and we did commit to KN95s for students that wanted them. We're going to keep that commitment as long as the supplies last. And we'll be evaluating the landscape like we always do.
This brings us to our second opportunity for interested citizens. Do you have any hands? Okay. I just want to point out that we've accomplished a lot in 100 minutes, and Timlin is not here tonight, so that correlation. Okay. Subcommittee reports, BMBC.
That would be Timlin.
Well, Tim was not here, but I can. The PMBC is moving forward with the high school roof project still. That's going on. We don't have timelines, dates at this point in time, but PMBC is still working on it. That's all I know on that.
Budget subcommittee. I know we have a meeting.
Yeah, the budget subcommittee's got a meeting scheduled for Tuesday, the 8th.
Yep.
Which is the last meeting in preparation for the public hearing, which will be next school committee meeting on St. Patrick's Day and somebody's birthday.
17th.
Brad's birthday.
Brad's turning 50. Can you believe that? I thought he was way older.
About 2 years older than you.
Okay, and I think we also, Jen will have to celebrate. We'll do a dual birthday cake. All right. That brings us to policy subcommittee.
So policy subcommittee met, and special thanks to Dorothy, who got us organized. And we have an incredible spreadsheet with all the links that we have. We went through some policies, which we'll bring and have a plan for upcoming meetings. We remain to be in really good shape thanks to people who were on the committee before. And we'll start having policies for this committee to review, I think, at our next meeting.
Anything on CPAC?
I don't actually have my calendar with me. There's something in my mind. Is
the
it?
Visions of Community Conference is coming up on March 19th, and we have a parent representing and a transition age student, and we are still looking for if there's an educator that's interested to go. I've sent out a couple emails, so it's a really great conference that the Federation for Children with Special Needs puts on.
And from my memory, I think in April, CPAC is will start starting the process of having elections, which will take place in May and June, I think.
Great. Dr. Clinch, is there a need to move into executive session today?
No, not tonight. Just a comment. We will work on a letter for principals to send out tomorrow regarding our decisions this evening. I'll ask Steve to email the bus drivers tonight just to let them know, and we will move forward. So.
Great. At this point, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made in second. This is a roll call vote. Jen?
Jen Gold, yes.
Brad?
Brad Austin, yes.
Justin?
Justin McCarthy, yes.
Matt Hunt votes yes as well. Thanks. We will see you all on March 17th for our public budget. Yes.
Efficient meeting.
Yeah,